Oh, we're going?
We are recording.
I thought Bill was leading off.
No,
Well, Jackie's going to throw us in.
I'm just over here.
Throwing it in. I think this is a good way for us to just start.
Just throw
This
it in.
natural confusion. That
Okay,
we have
so
all
this
the
is our
time.
first podcast at 4-3 Performance Lab.
Yes.
And we don't know what we're doing. And we're going to figure it out, and it's going to get better every
Oh, you
week.
said not to look at the camera.
Well, I'm just learning myself. I'm used to being on the other side, so I don't know what to do when you're on this side of the camera.
Now it's an
Fancy
issue.
pants.
Yeah, basically. So Jackie's going to throw us in with a little introduction, and we'll get it kicking.
Yeah, so welcome to 4-3, everybody. This is our first podcast. Oh, our fancy background went off. Good
Yep.
job, Zach. So yeah, clearly we don't know what we're doing, as we just said, but hopefully in the future we'll be bringing some decent content to everybody's way, whether it's about endurance training, tactical training, motorsport. I think we want to incorporate a lot of lifestyle things and everything that goes along with that, and just kind of keep it fun, light, and hopefully interesting for everybody. So that's our ultimate goal with this, is just to bring a little bit of a different perspective to the things that we do every day. Do we want to do intros?
Yeah,
Start with Bill, maybe?
Yeah, we're going to start.
Oh man, okay. So I guess we should talk a little bit about how this all came to be. Originally, we kind of had an idea for facility. Well, actually, before that,
Yes.
it started off with our background is in physical therapy. Think, okay, well, everyone comes in and they have pain, whatever deficits they have going on. The stuff we're doing with them is not only reducing that, but how about a healthier population where we could actually utilize what our skill set is to get them become better athletes. The problem we found with that is people associate physical therapy with having pain,
And
being hurt, just getting better, and say, well, I don't have pain, so I don't want to go here. So I said, okay, well, how about we just go crazy over the top, develop a whole brand that just encompasses the whole lifestyle and culture of endurance sports, because that's really the athlete population that we wanted to focus on. So he said, the biomechanics is just going to become a component of this. It's going to be like a much bigger thing that, we're just going to go flying in, incorporate as much as we can into it. So I think that was kind of the original idea that we had for 4-3, and so we said, okay, well, what would we want, again, some of us being endurance athletes, us working in these populations, what would we want in a facility? And I think that's really what started everything. We said, okay, well, I want it to have the latest, biomechanical analysis software and tools, metabolic testing. I want to have the best in strength and conditioning and, all that sort of thing, as well as having the best equipment for a treadmill or any other cardio type equipment. They said, okay, that's all great. Well, what else? Well, I want it to be a place I'd want to hang out at. Like, it would be a place that I'm an athlete, I'm in the triathlons, or I'm doing motorsport, or I'm a tactical athlete. Where's a place I would want to come and just feel comfortable and feel like, hey, even I'm not training, I want to come to this place and hang out because I feel comfortable there and I'm around other people, like-minded people. And I think that was a tricky point, because you're trying to incorporate 3 different groups who on paper probably don't look like they should be melding together, but when you look at their needs as athletes and in their professions, there's a huge overlap, and I think that's really where 4-3 lies, is in that overlap. And it's really cool to see people come in, whether it's a local police officer or a professional race car driver, and they interact with each other, and to see that kind of like-minded bond that they have amongst each other, and say, oh, so you're doing X, Y, Z, I'm doing this too. It's
the commonality.
Yeah,
Everyone's coming here to get better.
Exactly, and that to me is like the icing on the cake as far as developing this brand, really. So having this facility for them, I think again really kind of embodies that culture.
And for me, like a personal standpoint, I came in part-time to start, doing social media, taking pictures, just helping with that stuff. And something happening here, I was like, oh, why am I not there right now? Why can't I be there?
Why is Brian posting
Yeah,
videos?
why is Brian not?
He's not doing a good job. Like, that's a terrible angle.
He doesn't even have an Instagram profile picture. And then, just seeing like, a motorsport athlete hanging out and watching what a tactical athlete is doing for their workout, knowing that he's doing some of the same stuff or doing something different, and knowing that they are so similar. And I didn't even understand that before coming here, and now it's like so apparent that, it's a great community that we're gonna build because these people all have something to learn from each other.
I think like community is like the key factor in this, because I can remember we tried to do some things in the physical therapy realm, and I can vividly remember one day Bill and I just sitting down and saying, we need to create something new, something that doesn't exist, something that's never been done before. And in that conversation, I think we talked about like the concept of this being a person's like third place. There's this concept out there that everybody has home, which is their first place, their workplace, which is their second, and then there's usually a third thing that they gravitate towards and they spend a good chunk of their time at because they want to be there. That's really their choice place to go to, whether it's a restaurant or their gym or something of that nature. And I think we just tried to create something that combines, the gym and the coffee shop and all of those things, so that people want to spend their time here, and this is where they're happiest, and this is where they're getting the most out of their day, and the place that they look forward to going to. So that's really, I think community is really a key word for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think 100%. Like, we don't want to just be like, oh, we have all this nice equipment and testing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's one element of it. I think the overriding bigger element is this is a brand and a place where you should feel comfortable and you should want to come. Like Jackie was saying, some people have their local pub where they have, friends that they've known forever, and it's that kind of a vibe. And I think that's really what we wanted to have here. We said, well, some people hang out at bike shops, some people hang out, wherever else that might be. Let's have a place where, they want to come and hang out here, and maybe they're not even working out that day, and they're just going to come have a conference call and sit on the couch and hang out, or
right. Come watch a race,
yeah,
come
whatever.
watch a sporting event, whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's where that everything, like in the beginning we were trying to develop this, kind of started snowballing to, well, hey, I have this idea, well, we could host, when Jared D'Italia's on or something like that, we'll come host days, people come hang out, we'll have some food, hang out, grill, whatever it might be, or if there's a motorsport race on, or whatever, trying to create these blocks of time where people can come together and, in a very organic way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's another overriding theme, I think, with all this, is it's very organic from the grassroots up, development-wise. This wasn't developed as like a corporate thing. It was developed more as a brand that wants to embody everything that is endurance sports, really.
Yeah, there was no pre-sales or anything like that.
No, I think it was people that are into this culture and say, hey, I want a place like this. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think, exciting too, is creating almost like a fantasy world from the beginning.
There was nothing for us to, there was no blueprint for us to follow on this. This was every day us shooting emails, shooting texts. What do you think of this? Oh, this is cool. Have you seen this thing? Reading articles, and then just piecing it all together. And to see it at the end of the day, I think is probably the most gratifying thing we've done so far. And wow, we didn't have any template for this.
No.
This was all from our brain somewhere.
Yeah, it's literally I look back and the business was registered 2 years ago, almost to the day, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And to think that, something came out as a concept, and that we were, to get to a place where there's brick and mortar and, bringing staff together, I think is really, really a cool thing. And there's so much potential now for us to, again, create that bigger community by bringing in specialists in other fields. So whether it's a bike fitting specialist or a nutritional specialist that, or a local butcher, whatever it might be, so to kind of bring that whole community together where, and finding a focal point here for these athletes. So whether they're going to their, local organic grocer or they're going to their local bike shop, okay, well, let's bring all that together here and, have different conferences, people come or did presentations or talks, bring in these specialists in their field that also intertwine with what we're doing here. And I think that idea is starting to develop now, and that's exciting to see.
Yeah.
Again, just creating that whole kind of community vibe here, I think really is the exciting part of this.
Yeah, and I think we've led this into like a almost mystical like place, because we're not really talking about what we do. Like, we're talking about how awesome it is and the community and stuff like that. So let's jump into maybe talking about ourselves a little bit, like where we were before we came here, before we met each other, and then maybe I think Bill and Jackie already kind of talked about how this concept started, which was their two passions, and then maybe Brian and I can jump in with a little bit of our experience, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
So our background's originally in physical therapy. All through graduate school, I really had an interest in biomechanics and helping athletes perform better. So originally, I kind of had an idea with more so with more team-based, like let's say soccer or something like that, and then getting more into physiology and biomechanics. I found endurance athletes really is an interesting population. Just for them to be able to maintain posture and mechanics over that extended period of time is really kind of interesting. And then you start playing with metabolic factors. Not that they don't have as much of an influence on team-based, they do, but I think in endurance, because of the length of time involved, I think it really, that metabolic idea really kind of can play a big role. So that kind of snowballed into an interest in that field. Again, I played soccer, and I have a big interest in motorsports, so that kind of got me going in that direction and seeing what Formula One drivers do, IMSA drivers, all these guys, how they train, and that kind of led to my interest, to my portion of what I was bringing to the table with this. I have a CSCS through NSCA, and various certifications in dry needling, Graston, all those type of manual therapy techniques. So it's nice bringing that to the table to offer athletes. And I think Jackie has a similar background.
Yeah. We have a lot of the same certifications, which I think is why 2-3 years ago when I came to meet Bill and started working with him, it kind of drew us to each other because we saw that commonality there. And it's nice to work in the PT field with people that share similar beliefs and a similar treatment style, just so that you're on the same page and people are being treated in a similar manner. In terms of my background in endurance sports, I got into tries right at the end of grad school, so maybe 5-6 years ago, just on a whim. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, you like to run, why don't you do a triathlon?" I was like, "Okay, how hard could that be?" And jumped in the ocean for a race, and I was like, "Wow, that was brutal. You should train better next time." And I think from that point on, I definitely fell in love with the sport, and every day I wake up thinking about it. All throughout the day I'm thinking about what I eat and what I'm doing because of how it's going to affect training and how it's going to affect competition. So when Bill and I started to talk a little bit about creating this new concept, I was more than excited because it was going to bridge my two passions. I'm very passionate about what I do professionally in terms of physical therapy. I love what I do every day, but to be able to bring my hobby into what I do on a daily basis, it sounds cliche, but you really can't beat that.
I think, just a quick side note, I think that was a good point you brought, is that for endurance athletes, not that team sports are not the same way, but I think for endurance athletes, it's much more a way of life that you live 24/7, because it has to be for the amount of training involved and the dedication.
There's no season.
No, and it's
all year.
in the training. I think, again, not to say that team sports is not the same, but getting up at 5 a.m. because the pool is only open then, and you have to get your swim in before work is a little different, I think, maybe than for a lot of team sports. Be able to train for like a triathlon or an Ironman. I mean, that dedication and time commitment is serious, and that becomes your overriding lifestyle. I think if you're not passionate about it, you shouldn't be out there, and you're not going to do it.
It takes a lot of self-drive and inner willpower to do a lot of the things. And
there's no accountability
right.
from your teammates.
It's
your team.
It can be very, I would even say, like lonely at times. You know, you're out there running at 5 o'clock in the morning and you have a 2-hour run to do. Sometimes thinking like, what the heck am I doing? And to create some place where every person in here understands that concept, it's almost creating that team aspect to a very individualized type of sport. And I know that applies more to the triathlete community than like, you know, motorsports, you know, there's a big team around you, but also you're in that car by yourself.
Yeah, so that's a good point too. I think that's, you know, interesting portion of motorsports and also tactical, I think, to an extent where you're on your own, but you're also part of the team. Not that, again, not in like soccer or football, you know, it's a little different, I think, but I think it's on that spectrum of endurance sports where you have, you know, the individual running a marathon, maybe they're by themselves, you know, and you scale that back a little bit. You're going to find tactical athletes and motorsport probably not too far back from that before you get to the other end where it's, you know, much more of a team situation. And I think that culture, like I was talking about, where people live this lifestyle, I think we made this naturally, like I spoke about earlier, like to grow that way. Like this, it's all coming. It's not we're not trying to look as outsiders in to make a place. We're looking as, you know, we're in these groups, and we want a place that embodies all of that.
Yeah.
You know, I think I would say with you know, any type of endurance-based athlete or tactical motorsport as well, you're looking at people that are more intrinsically motivated versus getting a medal or going to a championship at the end of the year, which is more, you know, more extrinsic factors. And you look at tactical athletes, and you know their life is on the line. So
that's a good point.
It's definitely a lot different as far as their, you know, what they're coming in here for.
Yeah. I think, you know, Jack and I talked about that in the beginning, and then we looked to bring staff on and say, okay, well, we need other people that have the same passion for these groups as we do. And Brian and I had, you know, talked to each other in the past and had a good relationship. And immediately I thought of Brian. I'm like, oh, you know,
for weeks, all he said to me was like, oh, we gotta get Brian.
Yeah, I'm like,
Brian, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
you say.
so and I'm like, all right, let me see what maybe Brian's available, and you know, we started talking, and like, you know, you immediately showed a passion for us, and you know, with your background, you know, I thought this would be something that might interest you, and so we spoke, and you know.
I was thrilled from day one. You know, I think what separates this from a standard training facility, you get a lot of people, whether it be a CrossFit box or a health club, people that want training are coming in to be motivated as much as they are for your knowledge about training. People that come in here are already motivated. So we just help them along with the knowledge and, you know, the training programs, and also we treat them as a person, not as just an athlete. So we're looking at the whole picture, you know, like you, going back to what you were saying with nutrition and, you know, how you're managing stress. We're not just looking at planes of motion and metabolic demands of their activity. We're looking at the whole picture.
Yeah, and like your background coming in with the masters. I mean, it's, you know, this isn't like a, you know, Joe Schmo trainer facility here. I mean, you know, we're all professionals, and I like to think much higher level professionals than a lot of facilities have, and I think that's the caliber we wanted from day one. You know, of the people that are in here, especially in the beginning, our grassroots and kind of original kind of ground crew here that we have going on, the four of us here. You know, if you want to speak to your background.
Yeah, might as well segue into my background. My name is Brian Ramage.
Sorry, we're doing a bad job moving our conversation.
No, this is good. It's just I want Brian's.
I have a master's in exercise physiology, and I'm also a CSCS like Bill and Jackie, strength and conditioning specialist. And my background is kind of on the gamut in the industry of health and fitness. I've been a personal trainer, I've been in management. I actually taught at a community college for 1 year, and I've done hospital work as a clinical exercise physiologist, and then eventually found my way here, met up with Bill again, after years of coming to him first as a patient, and then, you know, we were friends and hooked up again, and here I am.
And then I think, you know, then the next step we saw was, well, we developed this new idea. You know, this is like such an exciting, powerful idea. How do we get other people to see this and understand it? And I think that was an overriding theme that kind of like this big cloud hanging over our heads the whole time when we're developing this is, you know, this is not going to be inexpensive to do. Like, this equipment is inherently very expensive. You know, the concept of what we're doing makes a lot of sense to us and to people we talk to about it, but how do we get, you know, these groups and the culture to understand what we're doing here? And I think that's when we realized how powerful, you know, the social media can be as an ally and as a partner, basically, with what we're trying to do here. And said, okay, we need someone who is, you know, awesome with, you know, customer relations and the whole kind of that kind of vibe, as well as you know, working with a population that inherently expects the best of everything and has extremely high expectations. And say, okay, well, and then knowing kind of Zach, that's when I said, well, you know, Zach might be, you know, a perfect fit for this. And then that's when we approached Zach to come in on a part-time basis, and originally, you know, his years of experience with Whole Foods and with clientele that want the best and demand the best. You know,
It brought me on for social media.
If you look at any of our social media accounts prior to
he's
Zach
gotten
being here,
a lot better, Brian.
there was
He's
like
come a long way in a short period of
one
time.
post per 3 months.
A
Oh,
little
look.
secret about Brian's social media is it might not always be him posting. But you know, it's a new thing, and it's, you know, it's not something that you had to do prior, and you used it just as a research thing, right?
That
To
was it.
learn and
Yeah.
see things, and you know, that's what's great about social media, and that's, you know, why I remember us talking at a private event, and you saying,
Well, we will call it that.
yeah, I don't really want to say.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And you know, you saying like, I don't know, I'm gonna do about social media, this,
Yeah.
that, and other, and me saying like, I'll do it.
Yeah, and I knew you, and I knew, like, from seeing your stuff, like, you had a good eye for that, and that's something you can't teach. You gotta just, that's gotta be part of you, like an artist or anything else, like, to have that vision, and I knew you had that already, so I was like, when you know, said, hey, I'll do that, like awesome, this, I felt so much better, and like, right away, I was like, this is a huge weight lifted off, because I knew you could handle it, and then, you know, coming on part-time,
Very
originally,
quickly escalated to
yeah, I'm like,
full-time.
and then we had discussion, like, look, I'm like,
In about 2 months.
yeah, I'm like, this is awesome, like, what you're doing is great, but I really see, you know, you gotta have you here in the core from the beginning, because it's such an important element. It's just as, to me, it's just as important as what the rest of us are doing.
Some ways it's more important.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause, you know, we could have the best idea in the world, but if people don't see it and don't understand it, it doesn't, you know, it's gone to waste. And I think what we're doing here is really groundbreaking, and I think it's developing a whole new culture point to all of these groups. And I think we got to be able to broadcast that to everyone and people to see it and say, okay, I see what they're doing here. And then again, like I said, like with, you know, your background, you know, coming from there, you know, so many years, being able, you know, really being a part of a culture that I think at the time was similar to this. It was a new idea. It was an organic grocer, which I think that also, you know, coming in the infancy of that, really, because you were almost there from the beginning of that company, growing to what it's become now, really helps us too. Like, you bring that to the table where you see the same idea, like this is a new cultural piece, much like that was, and you saw how that grew. And I think, you know, again, with the social media now, I think it's really starting to kind of embrace that idea.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just jump into like,
Yeah.
who, you know, my name is Zach Schreiber. I worked for Whole Foods for 13 years. I started pushing carts, and I stopped, you know, running a store essentially, and it was an amazing experience to grow up in because I love food. It's like my favorite thing in the world is food, and what's great is I'm learning about what food does for you now at a higher level from Brian, so I don't eat a lot of the same things that I used to. But
Would you say you like food more or less now?
I like it just the same.
You
But
just
I've
think
been
about it
I've been
differently.
new respect.
I think the guilt aspect
Yeah.
is a new part to put in
Like
there.
I open my
Good
fridge.
strong
and there-
Italian guilt when
Yeah.
you're
And
Italian
there's
as
like
well.
cheese, and I'm like, ooh, and then Brian's face and then on the cheese, and I'm like, damn. But-
Like literally, his face is.
Yeah, no, it's there. I put it in
Putting it
every
in your own
my fridge. And you know, I just learned that hospitality thing, and like Whole Foods always had the next level. You know, we always took care of the customer
Yeah.
and made them feel like they were a part of that family when they came into the store, and getting to know people and their families and their kids. You know, I think the hardest part about leaving was like people were bringing their kids in to say goodbye to me on my last week.
Yeah.
And you build those relationships, and that's, you know, what we want to do here, and that's what we're doing here. And that's why I was able to make that transition, because I knew I was going somewhere that was going to have those same values.
And that's a good point. I think that's a real core value of what we have here. We're all social people to begin with, and we all like hanging out with people and discussing whatever, my food or
Yeah.
athletics or whatever it might be. And I think having that as part of us and it's not something forced. Like that's just how we are, and we want that vibe from people come in the door. They feel instantly comfortable and instantly that warm kind of, okay, this is where I belong. I should be here. And these are the people I want to associate with. And again, all of us coming with, you know, advanced degrees in our professions, I think it's really cool for us to not be like there when people come in, like, you know, yeah, we have all these degrees and everything, but we're here for you. We're
Doesn't
focused
mean
on
anything if you're
yeah.
not making the connection at the
yeah,
end of
and
the day.
and that's it. And then the whole point of this brand is to be there for people. I mean, we put our cell phone numbers on our business cards. I mean, that's the level of connection we want to have with people, where we're accessible almost 24/7. We're there for you for the whole journey of your entire career in sports and your life, really,
Yeah.
for that matter.
Yeah, I would say people come for what we know, but they stay for who we are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Let's get T-shirts.
Those could be our next t-shirts. And we're not going to match every time we do the podcast. We just felt like it was a good
I feel like we
introductory.
match on every Tuesday and Thursday
Yeah.
regardless. Just
We
a matter
do.
of who puts
I'm starting to wear
wearing,
T-shirt. I'm wearing T-shirts from now on, so
All right.
the
just putting that.
flip shift
I'm just
ones.
putting that out there.
Maybe that's sponsor. Flip shift.
And then, yeah, if anyone's watching that's like, oh man, I want to sponsor these guys.
Yeah.
This is a great podcast.
It's good. Yeah,
Just contact
it'll get
me.
better. It will get better.
You email Zach.
Just
at
wait till we go in the pool. It'll be
Yeah.
great.
at team43.com.
Yeah.
I will set all that up.
We have all this space here for
Product placement.
anything you want.
That was our cheesy little
Brian's
plug to
chest.
try to
Yeah.
get that. Yeah, look at
It's
that
for
billboard.
sale.
Look at that billboard.
Nice lat spread.
Oh.
And then maybe we could just talk a little bit about, say there was an athlete coming in, and they're primarily going to be working with, Jackie and Brian, and then Bill and I are here doing our things, and you'll probably have me following you around with the camera eventually.
No doubt.
No doubt. Yeah, and I don't like being on the other side of it, so Brian is probably loving this moment right now, because I just take pictures of him all day.
Selfies all
long.
day.
Yeah, he did take a lot of selfies at Fort Dix this week.
I call them Dick's pics.
There's a lot of
Dick's
that.
pics.
Yeah, every time he
What is
turned on
this?
the
Is this
GoPro,
on?
every time he turned on the GoPro, it's just a shot of Brian's face and then it pans away.
That's awesome.
It's the best thing ever.
Stay
So
tuned
maybe-
for that YouTube video.
You guys can talk
Yes.
about.
So I'll go through.
I'll put a little clip in the podcast on YouTube of Brian turning on some videos so they can see what I'm talking about.
I'll give basically a brief overview of what the athlete experience will be. I think probably future podcasts will break down different aspects of his
Okay.
experience a lot more, whether it be in terms of equipment or the testing. So I won't go too much into the science of it.
And we'll also have, starting in a few days, our YouTube channel is going to be very active with a lot of
Very active. Yeah.
brief
Zach won't be here next time.
brief tutorials of, some of our equipment, maybe some of the testing, and some of the things that we do here that sets us apart and that really help us learn about our athletes.
So basically, the initial athlete experience would be if you wanted to get the whole perspective. It's something that we're calling the initial discovery, because that's really, it will be a whole discovery about what's going on with you metabolically, biomechanically, cognitively, and just looking at the needs of what you, as an athlete in whatever your sport is. So that initial experience is about 2 hours when you come in. It's one-on-one, sometimes two-on-one based on our availability.
You start with the intake form, and then roll into discovery.
Well, we can't.
Because you can cut this out.
I'm not cutting this out.
No, this is live, man.
Oh, well, first you have to fill out a very lengthy intake form.
Well, just with the, nutritional analysis.
Yes,
and
you're absolutely right.
sleep.
Yeah, Brian loves to know what you eat.
And then,
Brian's a big forms guy.
Yeah.
what's the forms? So yeah, as Brian pointed out, there is a form that we would hope that our athletes would fill out online prior to coming in. It's actually a requirement. It's about, I think it's like 6 or 7 pages.
Yeah.
And it really breaks down a lot of different aspects of training. So, like we said, the nutritional component of it, looking at what your sleep routine is like, getting to know the equipment that you use, whether it's a heart rate monitor, a power meter on your cycle, on your bike. What else is in there? Just general health history. It's really just trying to create
Injuries.
injuries,
Sleep.
things that have limited you in training before, in competition. We're trying to just get this snapshot before you come in the door of what we're dealing with, what your goals are, and what you've dealt with in the past and done in the past to train, because that will significantly drive the protocol of testing that we use on that day when you come in. So it's going to be different for every person. We have, 10 to 15 different tests that we could be doing. We end up doing maybe 6 or 7 of them on each person, but it's based on what your goals and what your ultimate needs are. So we're trying to give high quality service before you come in the door, by knowing a little bit more about you than the normal facility would.
I think that's a good point also in that, if you're a professional cyclist or something like that, or a professional runner or anything, your needs are going to be different than, say, someone that's more of an amateur. So we are able to tailor and provide to the whole gamut, I think, which I think is
Across the
awesome.
board.
It's not like, well, we're so high level that we can't help someone that is doing their first or second triathlon that, is really starting to embrace it or is interested in it, or like, hey, you know what, I've been a cyclist or I've been a runner, I want to do a triathlon, I'm afraid of X, Y, Z. I think being able to tailor to that person, as well as the professional, says, hey, you know what, I'm doing all this, I have trainers, I have coaches, I have all this stuff, what can you guys do for me that they're not? And with the battery of tests that we have and the depth to which we can go with people, I mean, we can find the smallest of increments of issue that we can address, and I think that for the professional athlete is really an important feature. And again, getting much bigger down to more of an amateur or someone starting out in the sport, where there's a lot more to work with, and I think that's an important thing that we try to get across through the social media and through talking with athletes is we can go as as detailed or as kind of broad as needed on a case-by-case basis. And I think that initial intake work kind of guides us just a little bit, say, okay, this is what we're working with here. In the past, we've worked with athletes in a similar skill level or similar sport, and it just gets the mind going a little bit. So when you come in the door, it's not this, oh, that's what you're doing? Oh, okay, hold on. Making it look much more fluid when you come in. We're ready to roll. I mean, we know what we're testing, and like you're saying.
I think this speaks to one of the unfortunate side effects of some of the people that we'll be working with. Being so intrinsically motivated and potentially competitive, is that they're coming in with a lot of issues that they may push through.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to this.
Orthopedically,
Yes.
nutritionally,
Right.
lack of sleep, and the initial discovery will allow us to kind of tease out a lot of the things that they might have going on that they might either be kind of in denial about or just pushing through on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis.
That's a really good point. I think, especially in this population, athletes in these sports, in professions, I think, they want that is their life, and they're going to do it whether they're have a stress fracture in their ankle or whatever, they're still going to run, you know. And
Yep.
I think, and they're not going to tell you about it
Nope.
until you've seen them 10 times already. Oh yeah, I had this stress fracture last season, and it's okay now, kind of thing. And you're like, well, why didn't you put this on the paperwork? Oh, it's fine now. And it's those kind of things that I think these athletes, more so maybe than even in other sports, just because they're so driven to do what they need to do. I mean, it's like telling someone, hey, you can't cycle anymore. That's their life. I can't
It's like
cycle.
telling them not to eat.
Yeah,
Type thing.
yeah, or like a motorsports, or saying, hey, you can't drive anymore. That's like not going to happen. They're going to do it regardless. So I think being able to tease out things that people don't want to talk about, or have kind of brushed past through our testing, I think is really important, because a lot of times those are the keys to making changes. Again, like you're saying with some of the testing that we do here.
Yeah. So, once that intake form is filled out and you come in, you go through what we call the initial discovery, and we've chosen the battery of tests that are going to best tease out the information that we need to get from each athlete. And, depending on what our schedules are like, sometimes it's just one-on-one, or sometimes it's two-on-one, where Brian and I both might take a component of it because we excel in different areas a little bit, and to have two sets of eyeballs on somebody and looking at data in two different ways, I think that's great. And then you're already generating that relationship across the board with staff here. So we look at various, metabolic components. We look at the biomechanics in that. We look at body composition. We're testing baseline cognitive function, and then again retesting after you've been stressed a little bit. And then we've collected a lot of data in that 2 hours.
Right.
After that, who's ever conducting the discovery sits down and analyzes all of that data. We compare it to the norms. We compare it to other people in your sport, other people in your age group, to figure out where you lie. What is this snapshot of this person at this point in time? What can we improve on, and how are we going to improve on it? And once we do that, we sit down a couple days later for half hour, 45 minutes, whatever's needed, to go through every piece of information that we have so that the athlete understands where they are and why they are testing the way that they're testing, and what can be done to improve their performance. Ultimately, if this is somebody that is going to be training here, at that point we decide, how many times a week do you need to come? How many times can you commit to coming here and really focusing on the things that we need to work on? And then there's a plan drawn out for it. We want to provide concierge level service in this, where, hey, here's the next month of your life for training here at 4-3. This is what we're going to work on. This is how we're going to do it. You're going to maybe do strength training once a week. You're going to get, manual therapy once a week to address that old injury that you have, because I think your lack of ankle mobility is really limiting what you're able to do on the run. That's why you're struggling at the end of your run in your half Ironman distance. And then maybe another session in that month is working on running form, and we're using, the dorsity to analyze things and breaking it down in a 30 to 60 minute session. It's about the athlete. It's about what they specifically need. If it's the more specific stuff, then we're focusing on that. If it's the broader stuff, then, we're addressing broader topics in that time. And then we retest, and it's constantly about just inching along and getting people to the next step.
I think the concierge level is, if you spoke on there, is really important. People need to understand when they come in, after that initial discovery, and we've sat down with you and we've mapped everything, out as far as areas that we can make improvement. Once you're on board and you're committing to this, this is a serious commitment. People, this is not a joke here. Like, we are mapping out the next month of your life for training, and we don't take that lightly, and I don't think any of the athletes coming in here should either. This is serious training, really. And I think as an athlete, it's nice going to some place and saying, here I am, okay, and then giving us the power to say, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to think. You come here, everything is already mapped out for you as far as your needs. And you're not going to find that anywhere else. I mean, you're going to find some people running strength programs. You're going to find this. You're going to find that. But tailoring it specifically to you and your needs, I think an important part of that too is the idea that we want athletes that are part of our team here. It's not just a week by week, day by day thing. It's 10 years, it's lifetime really. So we carry you through all seasons, whether you're in season doing races, your postseason, your preseason, whatever it might be. Everything is tailored specifically for you, where you are in your yearly kind of annual training.
I think it's also important to note that we take into account other coaching or training plans that you're already implementing. Like,
that's a good
we
point.
understand that people, have a triathlon plan that they're following, and that's great. And we're here to help you not only facilitate that, but to improve upon that. If you're struggling and increasing your power on the bike and you don't know why you can't hit certain numbers or maintain a certain pace, well, you're going to continue doing your cycling training, and maybe we're just addressing the things that we saw to improve it, whether it's a strength thing, a mobility thing, or a metabolic endurance thing. Whatever that is, we're here to, if you have another coach, we're here to, exchange information with that coach to make you better.
That's the important part of that.
It's all about the collaboration.
Yeah. Exactly.
We want to help give them information that they're not going to be able to.
Yeah, if the coach says, "Hey, I have this athlete, and I've got the plan, and this is plans that have worked, but for this person, for whatever reason, we're not getting to where we need to be," and that's where we come and say, "Oh, this is what we do. This is awesome. We'll help you get them there."
Yeah.
And then it's for that coach, it's great because now they can go on to the next level and keep progressing their athlete instead of keep running into the wall. And then, same thing for the athlete. They get frustrated. The coach gets frustrated. You say, "I don't understand what's going on here." I think that's where we lie in this realm. I think that's where we come in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. Like even with some of our motorsports athletes, like Brian, I'll have them come in and they're getting ready to train, and like his whole plan is laid out, knowing what that athlete has to do the next week when they're racing. You know what I mean? And they'll come in 2 days before race weekend. And the workout isn't, the normal workout, but it's going to focus on aspects that are going to help the driver, if it's in the simulator or using the iron net.
Yeah, it's tailored with the idea that, hey, he's leaving in 2 days.
I can't beat him up.
And it's, again, that's a good point. It's very specific to, it's time sensitive, month sensitive, whatever, down to like the second almost, really.
We basically need to know everything you have planned so we can train you the most efficient way. I mean, that's what it comes down to, and that's the relationships that we're building with our athletes now is like, we know exactly where they're going. If it's our tactical guys, they have boxing on Thursday, they have group training on this day, they have this on this day, then they're doing individual stuff with us. And what's great is we do the remote training also. So, Brian was just the last 2 days down at Fort Dix, doing training with a tactical group, getting them ready, experiencing what they do so he can train them better. We are open to learn, and I think that that's the great part.
I think it's a good point I think you bring up is that these groups, and I think this culture is a learning culture, and everyone is trying to grow. Everyone's trying to get better at their sport, whether it's reading about some new whatever that might be, new supplement, new this, new that. And I think we all inherently are lifelong learners as well, and we're always looking to learn more. And
knowledge junkies.
Big time. Whether it's looking through a research journal or, hey, I just saw something interesting I saw on some social media feed. What are they talking about in this study here? We're constantly, we're addicted to it really, and I think that comes out in our facility and our testing. We might find, we've been using this device for a while, but hey, this is a new device, it's better. Okay, now we're using this because we want to be up on the latest constantly, and it's just our personalities. I think also that speaks to the objectivity of what we're doing. Like the athletes that come in here want numbers, they want to see improvement. Anecdotally, they feel better. That's great. But everyone is driven by numbers, especially in these populations and in this endurance sport culture. And I think us providing what we provide through the discovery and all the testing is numbers. We're not telling people, you lost a few pounds, or whatever it might be. We're showing objective data and changes. Okay, well now, your heart rate's dropped 20 beats per minute on,
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think they see it even more in their, competitive environment.
Yeah.
When a motorsport athlete comes back and says, hey, my heart rate was 20 beats per minute lower,
yeah.
during this race than it was the same time last year, or.
I was able to see because I wasn't dehydrated.
Exactly.
Yeah, and tying that in objectively with what we've done here and seeing numbers change for us as well as numbers for them, but also how they perform.
Yeah.
Developing that correlation. I mean, the database, we're developing of just numbers is awesome, and it's a lot of data I don't think exists yet. And in endurance sports, I mean, everyone's kind of got their own thing, but I think the pool that we are developing and being able to make inferences and saying, hey, well, we have XYZ athletes that are performing, and this is what their numbers look like, and then saying, giving some of the clients an idea of where they need to be as well, I think is really cool.
Yeah. So I think we've touched on a lot.
We touched on a lot. I think
Yes.
A lot of
I
good
think we
points.
talked more than we anticipated.
And
It's the most any of us have ever talked.
hopefully everybody's still watching and listening.
Yeah,
And
wake up.
yeah, we're talking now. So I guess we could talk about. I'm just going to promote our 4-3 social media pages, and maybe we could just touch on real quick maybe some topics that we're going to talk about, or do you want to keep them top secret? So
To see some immersive experiences.
Yeah. So this is not the backdrop like we said
Yeah.
for all podcasts. It's going to be very adventurous and very
Hopefully
It'll be
some
fun.
good
This is
guests,
the most
yeah.
boring one you're gonna see by far.
yeah.
We just had to get it out there.
Yeah.
We want
had
to bring
get
in,
this
we want to
one
bring in
off.
those other experts
Look,
and
it'll
get
be-
them in here and let them talk and let
Yeah.
us learn
Yeah.
from them.
Lots of
Exactly.
special
It's
guests.
gonna be a lot more fun.
Cool talking, different locations. So
And if anybody has ideas, please
comment,
Yeah.
comment.
email us.
Shoot.
Zach
Zach.
at team43.com. That's my email.
Get a business card, call us.
It'll be at the bottom of the screen.
Instagram.
Instagram. So visit us at our website at team43.com. Our Facebook page is 4-3 Performance Lab. Our Instagram and Twitter are at team43. Those will all be at the bottom of the page. My personal Instagram is at little_Schriever, and that'll also be at the bottom.
My Instagram is at Dr. Jackie PT, and I think my Twitter is the same.
Great.
Not
We'll
sure
do
about that
some
one.
research on that.
I'm gonna put mine right here.
All right. You gotta say it.
I
I don't know.
just changed
You
it
just
recently.
changed it.
Yeah.
Oh, you put me on the spot now.
Elusive Doctor.
I think Dr.
Well,
Period William B. Yeah. Instagram, that's Instagram. Twitter,
See,
I
we're
think it's
really
at
good at social media.
W Botino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. What's your Twitter handle?
I'm sure this is gonna come as no surprise. I don't know my Twitter handle.
All right.
BRampage43 on Instagram.
All right.
My Instagram. Which is
and-
mainly
We're
where
we're big Instagram junkies,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, Instagram, very, very popular. For 4-3, it's every social media.
Twitter we stalk a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just want
Mostly
to
for
learn.
research.
Yeah. So, personal accounts, you're going to see a lot of cool stuff, a lot of like what we're doing, and a lot of stuff that we're doing here that you might not see on our,
Yeah, I think the social media really catches a lot of the vibe of what's going on here.
Yeah.
Day to day.
Yeah, and I think it gives you a good idea of what we're doing, really. I mean,
look for our podcast at 170 miles an hour with one of our drivers.
Yeah, that is definitely going to happen. But he's going to have to
Take some
drive
Dramamine that
at
day.
that speed for about 20 minutes. So it's going to be really interesting, but he's an endurance driver, so I think
He's
we'll be
fine.
alright. So I just wanted, I guess I'll thank our first official sponsor, which is Propel Physical Therapy. Offices in Boonton and Wyckoff, New Jersey. We'll plug them at the bottom. Thank you guys for an amazing first podcast.
Thanks,
and
Zach.
thank
Thanks
you
for having
for all those
Please,
millions of
please.
viewers.
Please
please subscribe and
Yes, subscribe because this is going to be fun and there will be prizes.
Oh.
I don't know what that means, but there's going to be
not
prizes.
cash, but something good.
Dates with Brian.
Yeah.
Supplements.
Oh yeah, we should. Well,
No,
yeah,
thanks.
lots of exciting.
Yeah.